Today's topic is not for the squeamish, but it's very interesting. One pest that we never ever want to encounter would be the cockroach. And when we see a cockroach, we might think, well, I see one. Are there more? And are they taking over? Is there a large family in the wall ready to come out and visit me? We don't want that. Well, today we have Jennifer Gordon, who's our resident urban and medical entomologist with Bug Lessons Consulting. We're going to get her perspective on the dreaded cockroach. Maybe they're not all bad, but I don't know much about them except I don't want to see them. Jennifer, tell us about the cockroach. I'm sure there are a few varieties out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. I love cockroaches. They are one of those insects that people always reference to me about why they hate insects, and I love when they get brought up. So yes, there are definitely some pretty gross and creepy pest ones like German cockroaches and American cockroaches. And we're going to talk a little bit about the pest ones, but they have a great amount of diversity and some of the absolute most beautiful insect species in the world, like domino cockroaches or glow spot cockroaches. And the truth is that the majority of cockroaches are not pests, but the few of them that are really give them a bad name. So in preparation for our conversation today, I actually came across an article written by Jason Biddle, and he wrote an article for Smithsonian Magazine about 5 years ago called I Am Officially in Love with Cockroaches. And I challenge anyone who hates cockroaches to read that article to see if their opinion about cockroaches can change, even if it's just a little bit. And if you still don't believe me, then reach out to me directly and maybe I can help change your mind too. But yes, you're absolutely right. There are many different species of cockroaches. I've seen that number range anywhere from about 4,000 to 5,000. And that article in the Smithsonian said there could be even 5,000 more that are still unknown. In the United States, there's probably about 70, but only about maybe 10 to 12 or so are going to be pests. German cockroaches are probably going to be the most common pest, although I bet a lot of people in the South have probably run into American cockroaches in their homes trying to escape bad weather or coming in from the sewers. I know I lived in Baton Rouge for a few years and I never got used to opening up my dishwasher and seeing a big old American cockroach just stared me in the face. But depending on the species, cockroaches can behave very differently and prefer very different foods. So when it comes to control, identifying which species is going to be really critical.
So you talked about your storm experiences and they can come in from that. But generally, how do they get into a home or a building?
Sure. Lots of different ways. They can hitchhike in on food, deliveries, people's clothing, other personal items that are being brought in. They can crawl in from the outside underneath doors. They can follow sewer lines and make their ways in through drains. They can come in through those cracks and crevices and gaps. It's really going to depend on the situation and the species.
Okay, the $1 million question. I see one on my counter. What does that mean? Are there more?
Yeah, that is a great question. There is always the possibility that the one that you just encountered was the first one that made its way into the building. But chances are, if you see one, yes, there are others. So cockroaches are not social in the same way that we talked about ants last time, but cockroaches do very commonly occur living in groups. And in fact, the more cockroaches there are living in one area, the more important cleaning can become. So if you find an area that has a bunch of cockroaches and you get rid of them, the new cockroaches may be attracted to that area because of the chemical substances that are left behind from the previous cockroaches. So it's really important after getting rid of the cockroaches that you physically scrub the area and use a good cleaning product to remove any of those attractive substances that are left behind to make sure you make that area less attractive to future cockroaches.
That is valuable information. Getting rid of that residue that can attract, that's good stuff. Okay, what do they eat? I've heard they can go days, weeks without a meal.
Yeah, like most of the answers I'm going to give you, it really does depend on the species, but cockroaches will eat almost anything. We're talking plants, pet food, people food, fungus, animal materials, things you'd never think of like hair and books. Cockroaches can make many different things a meal. And yes, you're absolutely right that they can go days or weeks without a meal. So sanitation becomes very important. You want to make sure you aren't leaving any easy meals around for them to find.
Okay, now what about survival abilities? surviving through pest control efforts. I read one reference, and I have it here in front of me. It says they can hold their breath for like 30 minutes. So how resilient are these cockroaches?
They're pretty resilient. I think that the question we're getting up into is, if they're so resilient, how can we get rid of them? And this is where building maintenance and sanitation can do a whole lot to prevent, reduce, and eliminate cockroach infestations. And some of the insects that we're going to talk about later on, there may be less that building maintenance can do, but for cockroaches, you can really do a lot. And this kind of goes back to the very first conversation we had about integrated pest management. So the first step is prevention. You're going to hear me talk a lot about prevention. An ounce of prevention really is worth a pound of cure. Inspect the items that are coming into your building. Look for cockroaches. Look for their egg cases. Make sure your building is in good shape. Fix cracks and crevices. Make sure the plumbing is in good order. Things like that. Keep them out. Keep them from ever coming in. Sanitation. Get rid of the things that the cockroach want, such as food, water, and shelter. Clean up thoroughly where cockroaches have been found, just like what we were talking about. Make your area as inhospitable to that cockroach as possible. Keep an eye out. Do lots of inspections. The more you're looking for them, the more you can find them before they become a huge problem. And you might even get lucky and catch that one before it turns into a 100. The best practice for inspections is definitely have a professional come out and do regular inspections. This is where that relationship with a pest management professional is going to be really important. But just training your staff to know what to look for and to report things is really going to go a long way. There are pesticides that work. Baits work really well for cockroaches. Just like what we discussed, they like to eat a whole lot of different things. So using an insecticide formulation the cockroach wants to eat can deliver that insecticide as a very good strategy for controlling them. And there are other different formulations as well. And some of these insecticides can actually prevent young ones from turning into adults. It's best to always have a pest management professional apply your insecticides to make sure you're following the rules, especially when you're applying insecticides around places like commercial kitchens. But always, always, always remember to read and follow all label directions and follow all state application licensing requirements. And be vigilant. Always keep that eye out. You may have gotten rid of them once, but they can come back. So make sure you're looking for them regularly and you're performing any maintenance to your building that may prevent cockroaches from getting in. Developing these protocols to keep cockroaches out of your building and training staff to know what they're looking for will go a long way. And this is when you could call me to come help create those protocols and perform those trainings for you.
So, Jennifer, I don't think we touched too much on this, but what about a roach infestation and public health? Like how sick, or is that a danger to think about?
Yeah, no, this is the $1 million question. How do cockroaches affect public health? And the truth is that, those few that can be pests, some of them can have a big impact on public health. And I think it's this reason that really gives the group a bad name. So one of the impacts are pathogens. Some cockroaches, like the German cockroach, can be associated with bacteria that can get people sick, such as Salmonella, Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, E. coli, and many other different bacteria, and maybe even some other microorganisms that get people sick, like parasites and viruses. And these pathogens not only get people sick, but they can also hasten food spoilage, which can impact people. Allergies. Allergies are a very big one when it comes to cockroaches. People living in environments with cockroaches can sneeze, have watery eyes, itchy nose, runny nose, and even cause some pretty severe asthma. The National Cooperative Intercity Asthma Study showed that about 1/3 of children are allergic to cockroaches because of chronic exposure. And then stress. Don't underestimate the impact that insects can have on a person's mental health. Pest cockroaches can be very challenging, but these insects can be managed. And if you need or want a little help, don't hesitate to come reach out to me.